Captain Lark sailed forth. The breeze blew over his brow. All was right. They were making good time. A crewman sat at the rear of the ship letting a rope slip through his hand. Whenever a knot passed by his fingers, he counted it. Ah yes, the tried and true way to know your speed when you had no landmarks in a moving field. He craned his neck up to the sails. They were full and string at the wind that pushed them onward. Always onward. He stroked his chin, thinking he headed back down to his cabin with knowledge of their course. The room rocked back and forth within the ship. There wasn't much room to shuffle around. A table took up most of the available space. It was covered in papers and maps. Laying his compass down, Captain Lark attempted to chart their course. He'd get a better reading once the sun set, and he could use the stars. "Captain, come up!" Lazily, the captain made his way back up deck. A wave was swelling up, higher and higher. A dark shadow swam within it. "Change course, hard to starboard," he commanded. Boy, this was going to throw off his calculations, but couldn't be avoided. It wasn't a wave. No, it was a fish. It was the Dandan. It was massive. When it opened its mouth, a torrent of water flowed in. The sapphire swan was drawn towards it. Captain Lark shuddered at the size of it. The mouth alone was bigger than his ship. It could swallow them whole without even touching the mast. The fish was faster, but the ship could pivot. They were sent forward in the fish's wake. Slowly, the behemoth turned about. Opening its mouth, it created a current which they couldn't escape. "Brace yourselves!" It was too late. They were already inside its mouth. The massive mouth snapped shut on the ship, attracting them inside. Captain Lark raised flames up from his hand. By their flickering glow, he saw the scared faces of his crew. He understood. They were being swallowed alive. Rushing to the gunwales, he looked down at the fish's tongue. It was covered in water, which was rising. Soon they would all drown. Time was of the essence. They had to act. Welcome back to Mythical Phylogeny Adventures. I'm your guide, Jason. The ocean holds no end of creatures strange, bizarre, and large. Among fish, none is larger than the Danden, or the Dandan fish of Persian and Middle Eastern mythology. Let's take a back and look at such a strange creature. The Dandan fish comes from the 1001 Tales of Scheherazada's Arabian Nights. According to the storyteller, the Dandan is the largest of all fish. It is so huge that it can eat a ship and crew whole, and is mortal enemy of the merfolk. Don't confuse it with the giant whale of Bahamut, which carries the earth, heavens, and hell on its back. Okay, so the first one we have to figure out is how big is this fish. We don't know the length, but we do have another piece of information: its mouth. Since these are ocean vessels, we can assume it is a sailboat. The smallest sailboat is the dinghy. They have one triangular sail and stand about 8 feet tall. This gives us the smallest option for the Dandan. What about the biggest? The tallest modern sailboat is the Mirabelle 5. It stands 290 feet tall. So we have a bit of range here. Let's look at the largest fish as a starting point, the Megalodon, the ancient giant shark. Yes, it is a shark, but all sharks are fish. I feel this is going to be the best comparison for how the Dandan would be built. Okay, the Megalodon was estimated to be about 50 to 65 feet in length. The jaw can open between 6 to 10 feet. These estimates are mostly based on fossilized teeth, which can make it difficult to accurately determine its size, especially when there are 250 teeth in 5 rows. Okay, this is good. This gives us an honest estimate for the minimum size of the Dandan fish. In order to swallow a dinghy whole, it would be roughly 65 feet in length. An 8-foot tall boat should fit in a 10-foot mouth. Perfect, great. Except for a few issues. A dinghy is usually around 20 feet long, or a third as long as a Megalodon. We'll need a deeper mouth. Secondly, dinghies aren't usually taken into the far open ocean where this creature is fabled to live. That means most sailors are going to need a bigger boat. This brings up an issue with fish. They have a variety of mouth types. You've got the sucker mouths, which we don't need to worry about here. We have a superior or upward facing mouth used for feeding on the water's surface, which isn't going to be the Dandan. An inferior mouth is used by fish that eat on the bottom of the ocean or the lake. which again isn't what we need here. But in the middle, there's the terminal mouth, which is used by fish which prey on other fish. Particularly, there's a variation called the protrusible variant, where the mouth can stretch out and hold and surround prey. This would be the best option for the Dandan. Possibly, this will let the Dandan swallow a ship that is too big and too long for its mouth. This does bring an option up for its hunting. If it can empty its mouth of water or compress its mouth to the smallest possible size, it can create a massive flow and current which would happen when it opens its mouth, potentially sucking in anything in the area. Improvement for its feeding. Beautiful! I love abusing water physics. Okay, but back to our ship-sized mouths. With this mouth design, we should have a mouth that is about as long as it opens. So, to get a dinghy in its mouth, we need a mouth that opens about 20 feet. If we keep the same proportions as the Megalodon, then we'd have a body length of about 150 feet or so. But what if we go for our largest ship? That had a height of 290 feet, about 30 times higher than the Megalodon. So if we follow the same formula, a mouth of 300 feet, then the body would be about 2,300 feet. A little under half a mile or 3/4 of a kilometer. That is actually smaller than I thought it would be when I started this. This is assuming it is as the same body shape as the Megalodon, and there is a reason I think so. Convergent evolution is when multiple species evolve to have similar shapes because it is most effective. Why are sharks and dolphins the same shape? Whales and small fish? For an aquatic environment, that is the best shape. To make such an absurdly large creature, there are a few things we'll need. First is breathing. This creature's volume is going to require a lot of oxygen. The usually comparable size of fish scales isn't going to work. It'll need to be much longer, at least half of its total height and over 100 feet long. It also needs to keep swimming to pass enough oxygen over them to survive. This isn't going to be too big a problem. Sharks and dolphins can do it. Simply allow half of their brain to sleep at any given time, while the other half keep swimming. Then we have the bone structure. A creature this long will struggle to make quick turns. The immense stress placed on it would snap every bone. But most sharks don't have bones. They have the more flexible cartilage. This will prevent it from breaking apart when it turns. But due to the incredible size of the Dandan, it will take time to turn. You can see this in cruise ships and naval fleets. To bring them into narrow areas like a harbor, a tugboat is often used, wanting them to be more nimble and delicate in their maneuvers. Next, what does it eat? The blue whale, the largest living animal, eats krill, a microscopic crustacean. Would that work for the Dandan? Then why does it eat ships? Is it an accident? I don't think so. A ship would be pretty hard to eat by accident. I mean, krill are in the water, and the ship is on the surface. I think the Dandan is hunting. At its size, it will eat a whole school of fish, or several whales in a pod, or a whole merfolk city. This is where that water suction trick comes to pay off. It would make it so much easier to chase down its food when they are sucked into a whirlpool of a mouth and swallowed up. Yet, will this be enough food? No. The Dandan will have to be bradymetabolic, where it will slow down its metabolic abilities to near-death levels in between bouts of eating. Lastly is its swim bladder. This organ stores air which helps the fish remain buoyant and not sink. For the Dandan, it will need to be massive to keep it from sinking. So, how do we defeat such a creature? This will be a sea battle. You'll need a good ship. What kind of ship? Ideally, a large ship that would be difficult to be swallowed, covering it in spines that would be painful to be eaten. You could also coat your ship in a tar that has a repulsive taste. Lastly, a balloon. This is a trick stolen from several species of frog that will inflate themselves when something tries to eat them. If you can create a bubble via hot air or alchemy such as baking soda and vinegar tricks, this will keep you from being swallowed. The best condition would be to have a fleet at your back, strength in numbers. Now, the Dandan isn't agile. If you want to fight it, focus on avoiding its attacks. The Dandan's main attack is swallowing. If you can come up alongside it, you can attack it there safely. Just be careful, it can slap you with the tail, That could total your ship. From the side, you can use fire and lightning magic, assuming that you have insulated yourself against it. Pulling this off, you have a perfectly cooked fish. For best results, rely on a group of mages working in unison. Be careful using harpoons. If they lodge themselves in the Dandan, it can go deep. Your ropes can drag you to the bottom of the ocean. Prepare to cut them at a moment's notice. I would prefer using cannons in this battle. Those will go deeper into the fish. Any attack from the outside will need to be powerful to defeat the Dandan. Its vital organs are deep inside. Most of them. The gills aren't. Those are good targets. Burning them will leave the Dandan struggling to breathe. So what happens if it rises up and it swallows you? It opens its mouth and pulls you into the... First off, there will be air in the mouth for only a short time. The gills link to the mouth and it will fill quickly. You'll need to get going. Doubly so if the Dandan dives. Smoke and fire will make its opening for you to escape. Water will rush in. Another option would be to use harpoons and cannons. Causing enough trauma, you should be able to slip out. So what happens if it swallows you? Let's look at this anatomy chart. Do you see it? What is that above the stomach? The air bladder. If you get swallowed, the esophagus will push you down to the stomach. Expect your mass to be broken, maybe some damage to your hull. Once in the stomach, cut your way up into the air bladder. You'll get some air to breathe, but not much. From there, the best escape route is back up the throat or cut out through the top. Well, you could go out the back end, but that would be messy. I would pick either of the other routes personally. I would avoid being swallowed. Time would be of the essence here. The Dandan is a fearsome foe and shouldn't be underestimated. Its greatest asset is its size. It limits the way you can hurt it. Once it ambushes and swallows you have a hard time escaping it. That's why I'm giving the Dandan a 7 out of 10 for difficulty. The Dandan is huge. That means literal tons of food. Think of all the sushi, fish teriyaki, and all the other recipes that your crew can enjoy. Mix it with some seaweed and some sauces, you'll be good for a while. Their cartilage skeleton can be used to make ships. It takes skill to make these ones. These ones are flexible and well suited for battle. Their hulls can reflect most cannon fire, but it would still use some wood in your ship to protect you from lightning magic. There is one thing about the Dandan which is valued above all else. That would be its liver. In the Dandan, that is a massive organ. When stewed, it can be used to brew a potion of water breathing. This potion doesn't just allow you to breathe underwater, but also withstand the pressure of the ocean's bottom. There is a final thing to consider here. The Dandan preys heavily on the merfolk. It can wipe out a whole village in a single gulp. The merfolk will reward you heavily for slaying such a disaster, but they live deep below the waves. Oh, but you can brew that potion. The perfect way to reach them. However, the conversation can be difficult. Trying to speak underwater isn't the easiest. The only issue here is the remains will sink. You'll want to supply it with buoys to keep it aloft. Else you'll need to dive down and retrieve your reward. Captain Lark turned to his crew and yelled. He jumped at the captain's words. Their trust had been built over years. It was absolute. Aye, aye, Captain. Fire! The cannons were louder in the confined area. Bursts of fire and steel shot out. A roar came from deep within the fish. Water rushed in as the Dandan opened its mouth. The water lifted the ship up. Captain Lark drew on his magic and created a flame which caused the air to move. A wind filled the sails and they took off. Sweet, salty air rushed over them as they found their freedom. Are the barrels ready? Aye, sir. Throw them over. A dozen barrels rolled over the side. Smoke billowed forth as they fell into the Dandan's mouth. One after another exploded in fire and smoke. A giant tidal wave washed over the ship as the beast sank beneath the waves. Ha! Perfect! Victory was theirs. Well, thank you, sailors, a voice came from below. Looking over the railing, Captain Lark saw the source. The Dandan is a fearsome beast of the depths. Be careful and prepare for your next sea voyage. Thank you for watching, adventurers. Please return next week, where we shall meet our first merfolk, the Marrow. Until then, safe travels.